Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So it has finally happened. The final assassin has been announced for the Big 4 rework, obviously coming up in the assassin update. And honestly, not too much surprise, that final assassin is going to be Katarina. Her kit definitely feels a little bit questionable. I mean, it's very feast or famine, and it just doesn't really feel fun facing a Katarina because you know at any given moment, if you make one slight mistake in a team fight, she is just gonna go off and kill pretty much every single person in a matter of a second or two. Or on the flip side, if she's on your team, then sometimes it feels like she just really doesn't do or add anything to the team and the overall composition unless she gets one of those very, I guess, unlikely situations where she can finally find a good opportunity to go in and actually do something useful. So throughout this video, as usual, we'll be going over all of the information we currently have about Katarina's rework coming up. So if you guys end up enjoying this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and make sure to let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about Riot's direction with Katarina? But without further ado, let's get right into the details. So there are 4 main things that Riot is going to be trying to change around Katarina with her upcoming rework, and the first of which is titled as following: tactical play. This is pretty much building on what I just said about Katarina, how she's in a team fight, you know, either doing a lot of really crazy things and killing every single damn person within a matter of seconds, or quite the opposite, not really doing or providing anything. But the main thing is the fact that when she does find that opportunity and just goes absolute ham and kills every single person in just a couple of seconds, it's kind of happening a little too fast. It feels like it's pretty much impossible to react to if she's given the right opportunity. And I'm sure by now everyone is quite aware that Riot's main intention with this assassin rework is overall not only giving more counterplay to the assassins, but also giving them more things they can do and more ways they can outplay their opponents. So overall, they're also adding more counterplay to Katarina's kits, but in turn they also want to increase the mobility of the champion and give her more options to dance in and out of encounters. The second major direction that they're trying to essentially change around with Katarina is her laning phase. This is actually a pretty big one because currently Katarina's laning phase is known to be arguably one of the worst of many assassins. Because what do you do as Katarina in the laning phase? You just spam Qs. I mean, thank God it doesn't cost any energy or some kind of resource, but you spam Qs. It doesn't really do that much damage, but you're really just trying to get as much CS as you possibly can with your Qs without just completely losing some form of trade. So their goal is to make her laning phase pretty much a deadlier dance for both parties involved. Direction number 3, once again another very big one, arguably one of the bigger ones as well, based on community feedback: mastery and skill expression. Now it's no secret that whenever anyone talks about Katarina, how she just got a penta or just a champion in general, most people laugh at that. I mean, they laugh at Katarina's skill. Everyone thinks she's just a face roll champion that is just the easiest to play of any champion in League of Legends almost, and you require almost next to no skill to play her. It's no secret that that's kind of how the community in general views this champion, and Riot is well aware of that, even though, and I agree with this, Katarina is actually much more difficult than she looks. Because finding those opportune times to go in a team fight, you know, tracking CC, and just overall getting your combos actually right is much more difficult, especially in the higher elos. But their goal with this change is going to be to try and kind of make it more obvious when Katarina actually did something impressive, something that you can actually look at either as another player in the game, being the one actually playing Katarina, or being a spectator. You can be like, you know what, that was a fantastic outplay, that required a lot of skill, or something along the lines of that. Essentially, they want to make Katarina seem and be recognized as a champion that does require skill rather than how everyone currently views her. And the final thing we'll be talking about is Katarina's reset, her passive, the thing that Katarina is pretty much known for. All in all, Riot thinks that the reset potential that she has with her passive, even though it's still going to be intact, is kind of weird because it creates sort of a feast or famine opportunity with Katarina where she's either very useful or not very useful whatsoever. So like I said, the resetting potential with Katarina is gonna stay intact because that is what makes Katarina, Katarina. But they are looking to make new ways to reset with Katarina and add more layer to it, maybe specifically with her E. And it seems like they're heavily considering, if not maybe already have made a decision, to remove the ability for Katarina to Shunpo onto wards. Because apparently she'll have enough mobility in her new kit already that she wouldn't require this, and it will just make things either way too complicated or just simply too much. But either way, guys, there you have it. That's the new direction Riot is trying to take Katarina. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. But as usual with these videos, before we end it off, let's take a look at several very interesting Rioter comments. The first one states the following: AoE is one of the main strategic elements Katarina brings as an assassin. I mean, that is how you think of Katarina when you think of assassins. AoE damage, spinning around, blades flying everywhere, and that is going to be untouched. She will still have that feel, which is great. The next comment states the following: there's no version of Katarina that doesn't involve blinking around and whirling daggers. So it seems like Shunpo will remain as is. She will still be able to blink around, throw her Qs and Ws and whatever, and just essentially have a bunch of daggers flying out of her kits and just kind of going ham. And this one is not all that serious sounding, but it just adds to that whole philosophy, as she will still be that spin to win champion, the one that spins and throws blades left and right. So here's where things get a little bit more interesting. The first point states the following: I think Katarina's skill ceiling and skill floor will both actually raise a bit, if not quite a bit. So this is going back to that third point that Riot is trying to take with Katarina and her direction in the Assassin rework, making her a somewhat of a more difficult champion, one that people can look at and respect as a high skill cap champion. And the second point isn't really related to Katarina, but it does state that there are going to be some new Assassin items coming out, which I'm very excited for, and once they actually finally do release those, you know the video will be made on my channel. So let's start talking about some new things coming to her kit. So apparently, according to Reeve, she will have new ways to get in and out of the fights. Now that sounds absolutely fantastic, because now the main way she goes in and out of the fight is her Shunpo, her E ability. You jump in, you do your full combo, hopefully you reset, and you either go back out or you just continue on the snowball. But apparently she will now have new ways to get in and out of fights, so very curious to see what that is, and I'm very excited to see. Building off of that, Reeve also does state that she will be getting multiple new spells. Now this is to be expected of an assassin that is in the big update, the big rework, the big force. So the question is obviously which new spells will be changed, which ones will not feel the same anymore. Now I already know a few answers to this, and we'll get into that with the next comment. Apparently Katarina's new Q ability is going to be different in the same sense of Vladimir's new Q in his rework. Where, I mean, it technically still feels like the same ability, though at the same time it also doesn't, because it has a whole new layer of complexity to it. Following this, apparently her ultimate will actually not change in any significant fashion on a gameplay basis, so chances are she is going to receive some changes to her ultimate, but it's probably very minor, maybe something just to better complement her kit, but for the most part expect her ultimate to be more or less the same. So here's something I think is actually kind of interesting. We debated whether we should swap her over to AD since it makes more sense with how her spells feel, but ultimately chose to keep her AP. The fact that they were even considering to change her over to an AD champion means that maybe the rework is actually quite big, to the point where apparently they can consider something as significant as that. Now luckily, and I honestly think this was the better choice, they did keep her as an AP champion, because I personally feel like she deserves to be an AP champion, and at the very moment with how she plays, it definitely feels more along the lines of an AP champion, so I'm glad that that's remaining. So this comment here sort of backs up what I've already said. Again, not changing her to AD, keeping her as AP. Unlikely that her ultimate will undergo significant changes, though Grievous Wounds is still a question we are figuring out. The 15% damage reduction is probably not going to be staying on her Shunpo, because apparently she has so many new ways to be mobile that having some form of defensiveness in her kit is going to feel a little bit awkward and maybe just simply too much. And like we said earlier, Bouncing Blades, her Q is going to be reworked again, very similar to how Vladimir's Q got reworked. And here's the final comment that I want to share with you guys, which is I guess more sort of a discussion. Reeve states at the very top how he played her in the playtests and that she is more fast-paced than before, and it's not in a way of just hit all my buttons really fast. And when asked to compare her new fast-paced playstyle to a champion currently in the live servers, he ended up using Zed and Yasuo as an example, which I'm perfectly happy with. They're my two favorite champions. And at the very last comment he says he wouldn't be upset if she had a mastery curve similar to Yasuo, which arguably has one of the highest, even though I know a lot of people seem to disagree with that. But that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is about it for this video. I mean, that's a lot of new information about Katarina's upcoming rework, the playstyle they want to try and achieve with her, the direction, what is going to be changing, what isn't. Whole lot of information, so let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about all of this? What do you think about Katarina's new direction? Personally, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm actually very happy with it. I mean, she is regarded as a champion that maybe doesn't really require all that much skill to play, even though it is really not the case with that champion. And the fact that she'll have many new ways to approach a team fight and just overall a situation and not look for that one, 1 out of 10 team fights where she can finally jump in and go for the reset, adding more things to the team and the overall composition without just being useless for the majority of it. That right there is sort of my favorite new thing that they're doing with all these assassins. They're trying to make them not just rely on a feast or famine diamond type scenario, and even if they're not super ahead, still find ways to make the assassin relatively useful to the team. I really like that because that means that I'll be able to really pick these assassin champions more frequently without really seeming that I'm being a hindrance. But either way guys, that is about it for this video. If you did enjoy, let me know by hitting that like button. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, share this with your friends so that everyone knows what's happening to Katarina. Make sure to check out my other videos talking about all the other assassins that are also getting reworked. But I thank each and every one of you so much for watching. Hope to see you for the next one. Peace.